This portrayal of one man's courage and leadership is being made possible by a grant from General Dynamics. General Dynamics, a strong company for a strong country.
I am Angelo Roncalli. Angelo Cardinal Roncalli. They insist on calling me. My mother and father called me Angelino when I was little. People have called me many names since then. Don Angelo, Chaplain Roncalli, Monsignor Roncalli. People still don't know what that title, Monsignor, means. Archbishop Roncalli, legate, delegate, nuncio. Titles are like a cold. I seem to catch one every few years. For the past 6 years, I have been Patriarch of Venice. Yes, Patriarch. The title I will be buried with. I'm glad about that because it means that I have been the father of my people in that great city, Venice. Perhaps you know it. And my cathedral, St. Mark's. Yes, and the pigeons, too. I am here in Rome because the Pope, Pope Pius XII, has died after almost 20 years. 20 hard years of war, suffering, change. And we, the cardinals, there are only 51 of us now, go into conclave tomorrow to elect a new pope. We are all staying here in this large residence, the Domus Mariae on Via Aureliana, as we prepare for the event. I never dreamed that I would be here for this. Not when I was a boy in Salto Monte. That means under the mountain, and so it was. A village of 1,200 with rising ground above and vineyard below. It's in the north, 10 miles from Bergamo. You have heard of Bergamo, no? Well, they say there are 3 ways for a man to ruin himself: liquor, gambling, or farming. My father chose the most boring of these. We were tenant farmers, giving half to the landowners and living off the rest. I was born in 1881. I will be 77 next month. The first son after 3 daughters. My father was very happy to see me come along because then I could work with him in the fields. We were very poor, but of course we did not know it. We had 6 cows living with us in the courtyard. The Angelus bell from the parish church would awaken us in the cool darkness at 5 a.m. I can hear my mother. Get up, say your prayers. And we would work all day at the fields. My brothers still do. We were poor, but my mother never turned anyone away. Whenever a beggar came to the door, she always made room for him. My mother was always inviting strangers to sit down with us. There's an old proverb: God blesses big pots more than little ones. In one way, we had so little. In another, we had everything human beings could ever want. We had love, you see? Not always effusive, perhaps. We were not French, after all. But something you could count on. Love. Sure and steady as the sun that rose over the mountain. Love, yes. If you examine people's lives, no matter what they look like, no matter who they are, all of them are looking for love. Is this the day, they wonder, when I will find it? I am almost 80 years old, and I've been a priest for more than 50. And I always have found this longing for love in people's lives, and at the same time, much suffering. It's a mystery that love and suffering seem to go together. A great mystery. Those who think they can have love without suffering know nothing of life and will never find lasting love. There's never been a great or true love, no love that has moved others, that did not reveal the strength that it had gained through suffering. And let me tell you, of all the confessions I have listened to, I have not heard sin nearly so much as I have heard discouragement. Discouragement of themselves and of life. Discouragement is what truly kills people. It is not their failings, especially those of the flesh, although some priests speak of nothing else. They regard these people as great sinners. Jesus himself understood and forgave these readily. No. It is their discouragement with life. Such people want to do good, but they always seem to have nothing but trouble and disappointment, suffering, sickness of all kinds, the death of children, the everyday hurts and disappointments of life. Think of the pain of all those people who have nobody to love them. And also think of the pain of those who do. I remember when I was an Army chaplain in that first great war. That terrible spring of 1917. The cassock stained red on the plateau of Asiago and the blood-soaked fields along the Piave. Giving what I could for the last consolations of absolution and friendship to the dying. Just children, really, bleeding to death in my arms, asking me to tell their mothers or wives or sweethearts of their love for them. Brave young men on old men's errands. Just children, wide-eyed before that last dark tunnel of death. How much I learned of the human heart at that time. No. I don't think most people are great sinners. What can religion do to help people? That is the question that the church faces. That is the question the Catholic Church must deal with before all others. To help people understand that life is not meaningless, especially for the young who have not yet had a chance to live. They are the ones who must carry the weight of our world. At this conclave, that is what must guide the cardinals as they choose a pope for what is truly a new age. One of my favorite phrases brings me great comfort. We are not on earth as museum keepers, but to cultivate a flourishing garden of life and to prepare a glorious future. The Pope is dead. Long live the Pope. The future to build. All this to do, and nothing has gone well so far, let me tell you. There are many signs of the disintegration that takes place when a man, even a good man, has been Pope for a long time. There are signs that the Catholic Church has been living like an old lady, shut off from the world, who no longer notices that the roof leaks, that the garden is overgrown, and that the walls groan in the wind. I want to tell you about the Curia. That's the bureaucracy here in Rome. The men who run the various departments. They are mostly good men, yeah, and bright, too. Monsignor Tardini runs an orphanage, but most of them know nothing of the world. They like things to stay as they are. I wonder if they even like the new moon. In recent years, they have been behind the condemnation of many great Catholic thinkers, the Jesuits, the Dominicans, and others. Yes, many have suffered because these men in the Curia want to control the church from inside their offices. They know little of what human beings really go through. They are obsessed with sin, with the evil of communism, with red tape. Do you know what the poet Peggy has God say in one of his works? I don't want much of men, just the heart. Well, these men would be puzzled by that idea. And these same men have judged that Roncalli is not a first-class man. Non uomo di primo piano. Basta, basta. I sometimes wonder how I ended up here. I've been thinking about the journey of my life, the journey of my soul. After that first terrible war, I worked with the young, with students mostly, in hostels near the universities. I was called here to Rome in 1921 to help modernize the department that supports missionaries all over the world. It was then that I was made a Monsignor. The title means nothing, but you have to work a little harder in order to justify it. Somebody asked my mother, why is Don Angelo dressed up like a bishop? And she said, I'm not quite sure. You know, priests arrange these things among themselves. Then there was talk that I was to be made Archbishop of Milan. But they chose another man, and I was sent, as a comrade of mine said, to the end of the earth. I was made an archbishop in the Vatican Diplomatic Corps, and I was given an appointment at the very bottom of their list, to Bulgaria, a country with very few Catholics. And yet, it was there that I began to see the Catholic Church as I had never been able to see it before. Because there, forgotten by Roman officials, I began to see the world as I had never seen it before. In 1925, I rode the Orient Express to Sofia, the first papal representative to come here in 600 years. Only 50,000 Roman Catholics in the whole population. You see, I really was near the last rung of the diplomatic appointments. The people were Eastern Orthodox, very strong in their faith in a very troubled country. It was on the brink of civil war, filled with pain and loneliness. Refugees everywhere. Terrorists on every side, murdering people, setting explosives. In 1924 alone, there were 200 political assassinations. And King Boris of Bulgaria had his own reign of terror in return. Just before I came, a bomb went off in the dome of the Orthodox Cathedral, and the air still smelled of death when I arrived. 150 dead. 300 wounded. The first thing I have done is visit them. An introduction to their 20th century. I have learned how the Catholic Church, which should be at home in every land, is a stranger here in Bulgaria. Not only does she pray in Latin, she preaches in French. It is like a French colony in North Africa. Nothing Bulgarian about it. And no attempt to make the religion belong to the people. I have changed every prayer I can into Bulgarian. And I have learned the language myself. They call me Il Bulgaro. I have traveled from the Black Sea to Turkey to get to know the scattered flock of Catholics. You should have seen me. I traveled by car, by scow, by horse. You should have seen the horse, too. Everywhere in this country that reminded me so much of home, I have seen ruined, vandalized churches, but good people. And I greet them in their own language. I am like a beast of burden. I don't carry much, but I am always working. 20 pages. I told the Holy Father that my greatest problem is not with the Bulgarians, but with the Romans. mercurial officials who understand little outside their own city. The church in Rome looks so big that they cannot understand how small it is in other places. When the Pope, Pius XI, read my angry letter, he said, "Behold, the wrath of the Lamb." But not even the Pope can get the Curia to act. And I was regarded as the problem. I was recalled to Rome for a humiliating reprimand by them. I felt very low. Everyone in Rome knew of my humiliation. Roncalli, the laughingstock of the Curia. Roncalli, he will soon find himself in a place farther away than Bulgaria. In the long run, I suppose, I could say only my pride was hurt. Still, I learned my lessons. Patience. Acceptance of myself as I was. I would always be a pastor in backwater places. Too simple for anything too complicated. Years later, that same Pope, he was a good man, told me he had been wrong to let them deal with me in that way. And I vowed afterwards, feeling that there was enough hurt in the world, plenty to go around for everyone, that I must always give truth its opportunity to speak, that I must never wound others, even in correcting them, that no matter how great the sin, I must always love the sinner. The Curia is right about one thing. I am being sent farther away, to Istanbul. Now I am in Turkey. 18 million people and only 20,000 Catholics. And they asked me to take care of Greece, too. Only 50,000 Catholics there, as scattered as the Aegean Islands. No sooner have I arrived in Turkey than the new leader, Ataturk, wants to throw me out. He has taken away the privileges of every religious faith. Even Islam has no standing with him. We have all been told that we can no longer wear a religious garb. None of us. My assistants and the other priests are very upset about it. But I have told them, yes, Reverend Fathers, yes, it is inconvenient. But you will always be priests, no matter how you dressed. Now, I learned to tie a tie when I was a chaplain. Bene. You better learn to do this yourselves. Do not grieve for your cassocks or your collars. Better to lose those than your heads. We must surrender our religious garb in the Church of St. Anthony. I do not want anything to do with Turkish politics, but I do care about the Turkish people. They have suffered here so much. If it has not been wars, there's been earthquakes. My conviction is that we must not try to impose Roman notions on them. If in Rome, Christ is a Roman, then here in Istanbul, let him be a Turk. I believe that the Catholic Church cannot be a monopoly of any one nationality. I believe that a good Catholic must first of all be a good Turk. I may surrender my archbishop's robes, but I hold on to my soul. What a time. What a time. War covers the whole world now. Istanbul has become a nest of spies and intrigue. Somebody follows me wherever I go. I see them all. The Russians, the Germans, the French, even some Americans. All spies look alike. That they follow me tells you how little they know their own business. Blackout curtains in case of air raids. I was out this afternoon to see my friend Austin Oakley, the Anglican chaplain at the British Embassy. We prayed together for peace in his chapel. We are good friends. Whenever I see a wall between Christians, I try to pull out a few bricks. Doctor has put me on a diet. I've been on so many diets. You know what he makes me eat? Yogurt. Baby food. Still, I will soon be 60. The age when we begin to be old. Here and in Greece, I have put all my efforts into helping people of every religion who suffer because of this terrible war. Von Papen, the German ambassador, came to see me earlier today. He wants me to say a good word for the Germans because they are fighting communist Russia. I told him I would never speak on behalf of the Germans as long as they have a national policy of killing Jews for no other reason than that they are Jews. He would be surprised at my visitor this evening, Mr. Ira Hirschman of the American War Refugee Board. I have worked with leaders of every faith to locate missing family members, to bring word of prisoners of war, to feed the hungry, to save people's lives any way we can. Chaim Barlas of the Jewish Rescue Committee brought me a report about the final solution for the Jewish question in Bulgaria. I felt that I was holding the work of the very devil himself. Mr. Hirschman, come in. Come in. Sit down, my dear friend, sit down. You were followed? Well, I feel better. I thought they were only following me these days. I have read your report on the Hungarian Jews. Do you personally have good contacts with them? Good. I have worked out a plan to save the lives of many Jewish people. I have not lived this long in Istanbul without learning something about intrigue. It is a game many can play, no? Listen, my friend. I know of nuns in Budapest who give Catholic baptismal certificates to Jews. They don't baptize them, of course, but the police accept them and leave the Jews alone. I have signed all these baptismal certificates. The spaces for the names are blank, so you can fill them in with the names of Jews who are in danger, and the authorities will have to accept them. If von Papen still wants the church's favor, the Germans won't challenge these certificates. Besides, there's nothing that impresses the Germans more than official documents. I'll sign as many as you need. No. They don't have to become Catholics. Giving you these is one way for me to be a Christian. I want to protect these people, that is all. Oh, please, please. That is little enough for us to do. And we did save many lives. But 6 million Jews were killed, each one of them a fresh crucifixion. So much death. Such a sad, sad world. The war ended in a kind of a peace game, a very cold one. I was sent to France to complete my education in the 20th century. In Catholic France, I found that hardly anybody went to church. Christianity was barely known in the Middle East, and it seemed worn out in Europe. War, terrorism, killing, hatred, and the corruption of religion in the middle of it. Sometimes at the very bottom of it all. People hating other people who believed differently than they, or because they looked or spoke differently. Jews slaughtered only because they were Jews. And Christians killing each other for reasons so old, nobody could remember them anymore. And in Rome, men so nearsighted they could not see the pain of the universe spread about them. I sometimes felt that I had to break their rules in order to be a Christian. And I vowed that if by God's will I ever had the chance, I would try to do something about it. A long journey, yes, to come to this moment. What a strange moment for me. The talk here at the general meetings of the cardinals comes to this. Who shall we elect as Pope? Shall we have continuity or shall we have change? 18 of the 51 cardinals are Italian, 6 are French, a few Americans. The non-Italians do not know the others. The Pope never brought them together for a consultation, so we are strangers, really, to each other. The talk is mostly about electing another Italian Pope, except for Cardinal Agajanian, who was born in Armenia and is thought by some to be somehow an Oriental. He has been in Rome so long that he is more Roman than the Romans themselves. There was talk at one of our meetings that perhaps someone not a cardinal, Archbishop Montini of Milan, might be elected. Cardinal Siri of Genoa became so angry at the idea of a non-cardinal being chosen that he pounded his fist on the table and broke the ruby in his ring. And someone else spoke of Siri himself as a candidate. But someone else said he is only 52. He could be Pope for 40 years. I do not think they want the next Pope to live too long. For myself, I was going to tell you something. A secret, in a way. Well, you know, despite all this talk. Well, no matter. Tomorrow we go into the conclave. We will be locked in. First, we choose the rooms we stay in by lot. Then we are sealed in. Yes, they brick the walls up, put shutters on the windows. They are afraid someone will send out news with a flashlight or a mirror. And the newspapers are filled with speculation. They say, however, that it will be a wide-open conclave. Where's my hat? Ah. Tonight, I dine with Count della Torre. He is the editor of Osservatore Romano. He tells me that he is so uncertain as to who will be chosen that he has prepared 25 biographies. You know, I have certain ideas, but I can't talk about them right now. This morning, I said Mass at the tomb of St. Peter. I said my first Mass there in 1904. I did it because something has been dawning on me. Very slowly, of course. The secret I mentioned. I have hesitated to say it out loud, even to myself. I feel that I, Angelo, son of the farmer of Soto Il Monte who made wine so bad we could not sell it, I am going to be elected Pope. Yes, it is true. At my age, almost 77. Some cardinals, you see, think that is an advantage in a new Pope. You know, one cannot get over old age, but one can go on being old for a long time. But I mean it. I know that I am going to become the Pope. I do not seek it. No, far from it. I pray, as I did at the tomb of St. Peter, that a Lord Cardinal more worthy than I would be chosen. But in my bones, in my heart, I sense that God has prepared me in my long life of journeying, so much of it in backwater places, in my long apprenticeship among the lost and the homely. Oh, I have a great appreciation of homeliness. God has called me to this moment. And I thought to myself, well, if it is to be God's will, the Pope has been buried, and we cardinals are being sealed in conclave to elect a successor. They built a wall to keep us in, and we live in makeshift apartments around the Sistine Chapel. Mine here, number 15, belonged to the commander of the Noble Guards, so the sign reads, Il Comandante. Do you believe in omens? Not me. They have the Sisters of St. Martha cooking for us. They must want a short conclave. They say that he who enters a conclave, a pope, leaves it as a cardinal. There were only 51 cardinals this morning, and one, Cardinal Mooney of Detroit, died just before we entered the conclave. So we are 50. Just 50 of the normal number of 70. Now that number 70 for the College of Cardinals was set by Pope Sixtus V 400 years ago. Let me tell you about him. He tottered into the conclave on a cane. And then when he was elected, he threw the stick away. He said it was a miracle. The other cardinals speak of me as a compromise candidate. They see it as either Cardinal Agajanian or me. They say I am a man from the middle of the road. Just what some of my brother cardinals want. Someone jolly who will die soon and won't do anything in the meanwhile. Oh, General Charles de Gaulle sent me a telegram of good wishes. But that does not mean that the French cardinals will vote for me, although there's been plenty of talk. As for me, I remember the little plaque in the priest's house in Soto Il Monte, a quotation from St. Bernard. Do not believe everything you hear. Do not judge everything you see. Do not say everything you know. Pray, read, withdraw. Be silent, be at peace. We have been told to disguise our handwriting as we inscribe our ballots. The Lord Christ, who shall be my judge, is witness that I choose the one whom I believe should be chosen, according to God. For 2 days, twice a day, the cardinals have voted. Some who want a very conservative pope vote for Cardinal Ottaviani. Some Americans vote for Cardinal Spellman. I have voted for Cardinal Valeri, my old friend. To tell you the truth, 2 names, mine and Cardinal Agajanian's, have been going up and down like 2 chickpeas in boiling water. But neither of us has received 2/3 of the votes yet. This third morning, it is October 28th. I know that on this day, I will be chosen. I know by certain signs. Early today, many cardinals, some who had hardly ever spoken to me before, started paying calls on me in my room. Last night, I asked myself, who is it that rules the church? Would it be you or the Holy Spirit? Well, then, if it's the Holy Spirit, Angelo, go back to sleep.
The Very Reverend Cardinal Roncalli. 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 Do you accept your election, made canonically a supreme pontiff?
Hearing your voice, I tremble and am afraid. If I seem confused, it is only because I know my own smallness and insignificance so well. But I see in the votes of my brother cardinals a sign of God's will, and I accept the choice they have made. I bow my head and my shoulders to the chalice of bitterness and the burden of the cross.
By what name do you wish to be called?
I would be called John. The name is sweet to me. It is the name of my father, the name of the parish church of my boyhood, the name of many popes before me. First, they take a new pope to what they call the Room of Tears, where he can put on his white cassock. Well, they have 3 cassocks prepared in different sizes, but not one of them fit a man like me. So my first feeling of becoming pope is that of a baby in swaddling clothes. The cassock is so tight that I can hardly move my arms. It is obvious that the tailors didn't want me. So, here I am, my first moment as the new pope, about to appear before his flock. Sit nomen Domini benedictum. Ex hoc nunc et usque in seculum. Adjutorium nostrum in nomine Domini. In pace Deo et Vero. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Good morning. Good morning. This is a Camuro. Popes wore them in the Middle Ages. Very comfortable in these drafty rooms. Here I am, Pope for a month already. At first it seemed strange, but now I feel as if I had never done anything else in my life. They make cassocks that fit me now. You should have seen the red velvet shoes they wanted me to wear. I ordered a pair of good peasant shoes and had them dyed red. It has been a busy time. My head has been filled with ideas. At first I would awaken and say, I must talk to the Pope about this. Then I would say, but I am the Pope. Well then, Giovanni, talk to God about it and go back to sleep. Now, let me tell you, the people who work here, I've told you about these administrators of what they call the Curia. They are mostly men who, as the Italians say, enter the church to make a career. Bureaucrats at heart. Of course, they are very nice to me. They smile, they bow, but they treat me as if I were a guest in their house. An old traveler who will use the rooms for a night and who will soon be on his way. They have a saying among themselves, popes come and go, but we stay on forever. The Curia. They tried to put me in a bag here. Yes, yes. They started almost as soon as I got down from the sedia gestatoria. Now that, I must tell you, is the most uncomfortable chair I ever sat in. They dressed me up like a Persian satrap and carried me around. I told them to put it away. But they said that they must use it, or because of the crowds, nobody in St. Peter's can see me. The Curia, yes. They want to shut me off in here and just give me things to sign. But the church does not belong to them. And the church is not an ostrich hiding from the world. I cannot say that too loud around here. Not yet. So, I have decided to do some things on my own. I have thought about the College of Cardinals, so diminished in numbers. Even I have left it. My aides from the Curia tell me that I am allowed to bring it up to its full strength of 70 members, and they have given me a list of recommendations. So, I drew up my own list. And we will have 75 cardinals by Christmas. It is long past the time to expand the college, to bring people to it from all over the world, even if it means that there will be fewer men from Italy. The Curia, of course, will not be happy with me, especially since I am naming some men the Curia does not approve of at all. Montini of Milan, he will be Pope someday. And Cushing of Boston, who has been passed over for years. And I'm going to name more in the new year. By Easter, we will have almost 90 cardinals, including the first black prince of the church, Archbishop Rugambwa of Africa. The church is not as unchangeable as the Curia thinks. Oh, but I'm up against something here. Holy inertia. But I intend to keep making changes. For example, I do not like the idea that the Pope is called the prisoner of the Vatican. Now they tell me that I must eat alone. I feel like a seminarian being punished for something. I have read the gospel over carefully without finding a single passage which says that one should eat alone. As we know, Jesus loved to eat with other people. So now I have people in all the time. And I am brightening this place up. Nothing has been done in years. I put in these chairs so that visitors can be comfortable. And we needed the real world in here. I have found that I must keep on the move for two reasons. I must keep the Curia from sewing the bag shut around me, and I would go mad if I stayed cooped up here all the time. I walk everywhere around the Vatican, around the city, too. The English journalists, you know, call me Johnny Walker. But I first walked in the papal gardens. Everywhere I went, the gardeners backed away from me. Why, I asked. I won't harm them. Well, come on then. I'm on my way to jail. My dear sons, my dear brothers, we are in God's house here, too. You can't come to see me, so I have come to see you. Are you glad the Pope came? Are you glad? I know that you are not all Catholics, so I am glad that you are happy to see me. I do not think God penalizes anybody for not being Catholic. On my way here, I remembered that when I was a little boy, one of my good kinsmen went hunting one day without a license and was arrested by the Carabinieri and locked up. Oh, what a feeling. Oh, the poor man. But things like this can happen sometimes, even if one's intentions are not wicked. But if one makes a mistake, one pays for it. And we have to make our sacrifices to the Lord. Oh, what a great thing. What a beautiful thing faith is. And so, here I am. To tell you what is in my heart as I speak to you would be impossible. But how else would you want the Pope to speak to you? My eyes look into yours. Why are you weeping? Be glad. Be glad that I am here. I have put my heart near your hearts. This meeting, you may be certain, will remain deep in my soul. The Pope has come. Here I am, among you. And with you, I am thinking of your children. who are your poetry and your sorrow, and of your wives and your mothers and your sisters. Go ahead and laugh. Today, I am your prisoner. People send me greetings from the world over. Such good people. This little boy calls me Pope St. Nicholas. What people tell me from their hearts convinces me that I must do something. Something to make the church serve them better, understand and comfort them more. I have many letters from married people who suffer because of the church's strictness about sex. They tell me they have been scolded, that their confessors are harsh with them, and they only want to love each other. Here is a letter from a young working man. Holy Father, I am a simple man, and I love my wife. We have 3 children, and on my wages, we can afford no more. We have tried to follow what the church teaches, but I think these rules may be written by men who do not live as most of us do. Last week was my birthday, and when I came home, my wife had already taken care of the children. She had cooked my favorite meal, and she had even found the time to bake me a birthday cake. She looked so beautiful, so loving as she stood by the stove. I came up behind her and put my arms around her. And she froze. Her whole body began to tremble, and she burst into tears. It was not a safe time for her. I do not think it is wrong to want to love my wife. Do you understand what goes on between a man and a woman? And I hear from the priests who are the pastors of such people as well. They grieve with their flocks, and sometimes for themselves. Many priests tell me that they suffer greatly because they are not allowed to marry. It is not just a question of sex or lust. It is something deeper. Can we be human if we do not have love and affection? Yes. Yes. I do understand. To be human, that is essential for all of us. These good people are only asking about something that is very human. Have I not felt all this? Do I not feel it deeply myself? Do you think I do not understand love, our need for friendship, the fact that we are only human? I remember a wise saying in the Jewish tradition: do not try to be more than human. Do not be less than human. I am not more than human myself, and I know that with one stroke of the pen, I could change these laws. I could, for example, put an end to celibacy. I know that I could do it. But I cannot do that on my own. I feel that I must not. I cannot on my own change long-standing traditions. There's much to be said for sacrificial love. But I can call on the bishops of the world to come together in order to discuss these and other problems. I am going to call a general council of all the world's bishops, an ecumenical council, so that the church can look inside of itself, and so that the world can too. A council, you see, is an unusual meeting. There have only been 19 of them in almost 2,000 years. I will bring the bishops together to see if we can heal the divisions in the Christian churches. To see if we can embrace our other religious brothers in charity. And if we can see the world as it is seen from space. Our home together. If we can do something about prejudice, like that which has blamed the Jews for killing Christ, or any of so many other hateful things that have been based on so-called religious ideas. Let us find out how we are alike, instead of insisting on how we are different. The world's bishops can do it, and only they can, gathered together here in Rome, where the administrators have been running things for such a long time. If I have all the bishops here in Rome, I trust the Spirit will see that they do their work, and that they do not let the Curia, the ultimate bureaucracy, dominate them. I want the bishops to be pastors when they come here. The real reason I will call this council, and what the bishops can help in, is not something abstract. No, not at all. It is simply to make the human sojourn on earth less sad.
This portrayal of one man's courage and leadership is being made possible by a grant from General Dynamics. General Dynamics, a strong company for a strong country.
This is PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service.
Good morning. You would not believe the trouble I've had since I announced the council. I always thought that when a pope gave an order, right away people did what he said, especially monsignors. That is, after all, how they got to be monsignors. But no, not around here. Here, most Vatican bureaucrats spend their time keeping the pope from doing anything. The Curia. The system, they say, will take care of itself. Do not upset the system. And today, I have agreed to sit with the sculptor, Manzu. So, it is just we two, eh? Be natural? So, like this? Well, when I first saw myself dressed as Pope, I said, oh, Lord, this man is going to be a disaster on television. You would think, since God knew from all eternity that I would be Pope, he would have given me better looks. You know, Signor Manzu, I quoted you yesterday. My advisors, they are always finding reasons to prove that we cannot go forward with the council. Yesterday, they were all upset and wanted to upset me. How, they asked, will we ever answer all the questions that will be asked at the Vatican Council? I told them that you find your answers as you work, in your work, and they must do the same. And now, there is something more that God has placed in my path. A chance to make an opening to the East. Premier Khrushchev sends me birthday greetings, and I send greetings to him and to the great Russian people. We are still two ships signaling from far away in the dark, but each knows that the other is there. That is a beginning. We cannot go on preparing to fight some terrible final war. There is an opportunity, small but real, to begin to speak with the Russians. They are a great, a very deep people. Human, you know, just like us. I have been reading Gogol's spiritual letters. A people that produces mystical souls like his is very great indeed. We cannot act as if they did not exist. Of course, the Courier tells me not to do this. They say that if I seem friendly with the Russians, I will increase the communist vote here in Italy. Many of them think that Italian politics and the church are the same thing. I cannot make every decision based on just what is good for Italian politics. I must think of the whole world. The communists are the enemies of the church, yes. But the church has no enemies. So I am prepared to take another step. I will receive Premier Khrushchev's daughter and son-in-law in an audience. My advisors are very upset with my plan. We shall see. Is that all for the day? Signor Manzu, always a pleasure. And now I must prepare myself for my visitors. So many visitors. Such good people. My advisors also tell me that I should not receive so many people from so many different faiths. That I will confuse people by seeming to see every religion on an equal plane. Well, they are all my children, aren't they? Then I will be their father. That is what Pope means, father. How glad I was when 200 delegates of the United Jewish Appeal came to see me. It moved me very much, and I spontaneously opened my arms and spoke from my heart. I am Joseph, your brother. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Fisher, visited me too. For the first time in 400 years, the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury spoke to each other. He took my hand and he said, Holy Father, we are making history. I studied English under Monsignor Ryan. I'm not very good at it, and what words I can speak come out with an Irish brogue. I think President Eisenhower found me very amusing. I remember an American congressman, Mr. Brooke Hayes. The first thing he said to me was, I'm a Baptist. I answered, well, I'm John. The wife of the President of the United States is coming to see me in a few minutes. My advisors have written out 2 ways that I may address her. They want to tell me what to say at these audiences because they're always afraid I will say the wrong thing. I may simply call her Madame, or I may say Madame President. Which do you think I should use? Madame. Madame President. Madame Kennedy.
Madame John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Jackie. The doctors are coming to see me in a few minutes. That's one good thing about being Pope. You don't have to go to the doctors, they come to you. Still, there is much waiting involved. There is so much waiting in everyone's life, isn't there? Very soon, what I have waited for so long will come true. The first session of the council begins, and critics still tell me that I have made a mistake. Well, it is a gamble for an old man. No. It is not without risk. Not everybody agrees that we should speak of bringing the church up to date. Some powerful men here say that I will do more harm than good. Ah, come in, doctors. Come in. Sit down. Sit down. Yes, yes. You have the results of all the tests? And there's nothing you can... This growth in my stomach, how long do you think? I understand. No. I know you've done everything you can. No, I'd rather be alone for a while just now. They cannot operate. My dear sisters died of this. Now I will know what they suffered. What bothers me is that there are no secrets here, not even that a pope can keep. The men who want to keep the church from changing, they will pray for me. But they will also know that time is on their side, that they can wait me out and get control again when the old man dies. And they will adjourn the council saying it was an old man's madness and turn the clock back. So, everything depends on good preparation and a good beginning for the council. If I can get the bishops not to be schoolboys, if together we can sink a deep foundation, these men from the past will not be able to stop the future. It won't make any difference if I die or not. What a time to be in a race. Just as I'm running out of breath. I will have to trust God. Besides, I have no time to worry about death. It will have to take care of itself. This morning we begin, for the sake of your world, to tear the curtains down and force open the windows of the church. I want only to do your will, O God. For the meek who have not inherited the earth. For the poor who have never been filled. For those who mourn and have not been comforted. For all those who are broken and discouraged, that all of these may see God in their lives. For peace and justice for all the world. So, the bishops have arrived for the council. I gave my opening address at the end of the long ceremonies. I think it woke many of the bishops up. One good thing. The bishops have refused to accept the rules of procedure that Cardinal Ottaviani and the administrators of the Curia had set up beforehand. Oh, the Curia. So many people look at the modern world and can see nothing but calamities and ruin. In my speech to the council, I told them that I was in total disagreement with these prophets of doom, who always foretell catastrophes as though the world were close to an end. I told them that right now, Providence is leading us toward a new order of human relationships, that God wants us to work for that that is the work of the council. So I said that we could not spend all the time guarding the great treasures of the church, repeating over again what should be familiar to our minds. There's no need of a council for that. Instead, I pointed them toward a leap forward, teaching more clearly, forming people's consciences, drawing on modern methods of scholarly research, and speaking in a language the world could understand. The church, through this council, raises the torch of religious truth and wishes to show itself as the loving mother of all, benign, patient, full of mercy and goodness, even towards those who are separated from it. To the human race, oppressed by so many difficulties, the church, like Peter to the poor man asking for alms, says, I have neither gold or silver, but I give you what I have. In the name of Jesus of Nazareth, arise and walk. This is a lonely moment for me. I feel I have done everything I can, and I must leave it in other hands. Everyone comes to this moment, no? Perhaps it is the moment of life. It is not when we grasp something that we are tested. It is whether we can let it go. Still, I feel very alone just now. I think I will go talk to my old friend, Father Giuseppe. He is very ill also. I need to talk to an old friend just now. Even the Pope must tell somebody his troubles once in a while.
Yes, it is your old friend. No, none of that, no. I come as much as your old companion as the Pope. You wouldn't deny me the work a priest is supposed to do, would you? Well, we had great days together, did we not? Yes, yes. I remember in Paris when the Pope told me I spent too much time walking. Now I am the Pope, and the courier tells me the same thing. You know, old friend, what I feel is not so much the pressure of the work on the council, but being alone at this moment. I have need of you, dear friend. I need to talk to you. I'm alone without people like you. It is difficult because we are at a critical point in the council. No. I must stay away from the actual sessions. Otherwise, the bishops will look at me all the time to see how I react to everything. You remember, Giuseppe, when I was the nuncio in Paris and had to go to all those receptions. Every time a lady entered in a low-cut gown, the ambassadors did not watch her, but me, to see my reactions. Cardinal Ottaviani? Oh, yes. Obstructing everything as usual. Yes, you are right. He does love the church, but in his own way. He believes fervently in its past. It seems that the thing he fears most, and there are others who are the same, they are afraid of Christians getting together. They want from the other churches a kind of unconditional surrender to Rome. They insist that they return to Rome. I realize that it will take a long time to change them. Neither you nor I will be here to celebrate the great feast of reconciliation. But someone must begin to clear away the obstacles which stand in the way. We shall not hold in a historical trial. We shall not seek to know who was right and who was wrong. The responsibilities are shared. We shall simply say, let us put an end to these dissensions. Giuseppe, you know, my friend, I really am glad of the chance to see you. I am, well, the doctors have been looking at me too, and they tell me, well, you know how it is with doctors. You know what St. Martin of Tours said? He was not afraid to die, but he wouldn't refuse to live either. That is how I feel, dear friend. I think I have started the right thing for the church and the world, but I may not see it finish its work. You know, I am learning about two things I always thought I understood. Fear is one of them. Yes, I know what it is really like to be afraid. I'm afraid sometimes that everything I have done may fail. And that makes me understand trust. There is no trust unless you let go of yourself. I can only pray for the strength to get through these few months to the council's beginning. I must trust the bishops to take over. Like you. I am dying. I thought perhaps you could hear my confession. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
And so the council seems to have come to an impasse. Cardinal Ottaviani has stated that little time remains.
We have come to a difficult time for the council and for me. The bishops have been good. Yes, very good. But they have underestimated Cardinal Ottaviani. And the first session will close in a few days, December 8th. And Ottaviani, by a parliamentary maneuver, has arranged it so that the most important subject on what the church is in this world and in God's plan will not have the time to be fully discussed. He talks about next year. But who knows what will happen next year? Ottaviani has been fighting for time. All he needs, he feels, is a little time. A little time. You see, his motto is Semper Idem, always the same. That is how he feels the church should be, never changing. That is why he wants to put off the discussion until next year. He feels he will not have me to deal with next year. When I was elected, the Courier didn't think that I would last long. Where they were wrong was in thinking that I would not do anything while I was here. Taviani is coming to see me in a little while. He prays for me in his way. He has not survived so long without learning a thing or two. But then, neither have I. The problem is that I have so much to do before I leave. And don't concern yourself for me. My bags are packed, and I am ready to go. But I dislike going. I cannot let Taviani frustrate the council. There is too much at stake. The bishops are just beginning to feel some confidence in their own judgment. I told them they were no longer just choir boys. The world is desperate for peace. The church must do what it can to help. But Lord Cardinal Taviani says he has the votes to take control. The Taviani's proposals. But the work of the Courier. There is a special style about the work in the Courier. Some call it Romanità. Oh, sometimes I think I'm dying of Romanità. When an American reporter asked me how many people worked in the Vatican, I answered, about half of them. And they are doing exactly the same work they did 100 years ago. I had bad bleeding again in the night. Cardinal Taviani, with his peace terms. Oh, my Lord Cardinal. Come in. No regal genuflections this morning. Have a seat there. There. No, I am fine. Do not worry about me. I have been studying your proposals about putting off the most important discussion of the nature of the church until next year. Yes, it's very clear right here. My Lord Cardinal, you are going against the convictions of almost 2/3 of the bishops. In these few months since the council started, the world almost suffered a nuclear war. You once condemned nuclear arms. Did you not know that in October, Russia and the United States confronted each other over the question of missiles in Cuba, and I was asked to intervene? Perhaps you did not know that. But I did contact both President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev at that very moment when they stood at the edge, very close to war, and they pulled back. I think that I was of some help, and I think that I could help because they trusted me. Khrushchev knew that I would not deceive him. In other words, my Lord Cardinal, the very thing you warned me about, beginning a relationship with Russia, did not end up causing a war as you suggested, but helped to prevent one as I had hoped. You see, an old man can still do something about peace. And now, you not only want to delay the council, yes, delay the council, but you want me to postpone my letter on peace itself because you feel it is a dangerous involvement of the eternal church in the affairs of history. I decided after the missile crisis that I must write this. Peace on earth, it will be called. Pacem in terris. I am writing of the rights human beings have. A right to life and to bodily integrity and the means necessary for the proper development of life. Food, clothing, shelter, medical care, rest, necessary social services. A right to be respected. A right to freedom in investigating the truth. A right to freedom of religious worship. What good is any religion if it does not stand for the rights that give us our only chance to be human? You think you have me in a sack. Ah, yes. I know that, very sincerely, you believe that since I am old and ailing, that time is on your side. And so it is. But history is on mine. Most of the bishops feel that the church must define itself now as a servant of the world rather than its master. And you have been able to block them on a technicality. Because you fervently believe in a different kind of church. Isn't that so? For a long time, I have watched the curial administrators fighting the bishops on this issue. I watched like the father in Genesis when Jacob and Esau were fighting. The father considered the matter in silence. Well, I have considered it in silence long enough. My Lord Cardinal Ottaviani, you strongly endorse a church in which the Pope is supreme and in which all must obey his decisions. Very good. Then I shall make you happy today by giving you a decision to obey. I have issued an order to the council. I am withdrawing the future plans for the church. I am withdrawing the future plans for the church from any discussion at this council so that there will have to be another session next year, no matter who is Pope. It is what the overwhelming majority of the bishops want, and I am only agreeing with them. I am setting up a new commission to rework the plans in the spirit of my opening address to the council, and I know that you, my Lord Cardinal, will see that this directive is carried out to the letter. The question of the church can then be dealt with fully in the right spirit at the next session, whoever the Pope is then. Now, they are just announcing my decision at St. Peter's. Oh, must you go in such a hurry? I'm sorry that our appointment interfered with your being at the council session for this momentous event. And so, my brothers, I bid you farewell. This session has been only a slow and solemn introduction to the great work before you. These discussions have caused truth to come forth, showing the world the holy freedom of the sons of God as it exists in the church. The new session that will begin next September will have an assured, uninterrupted, and swifter pace, which is possible because of the experience of this session. We hope to see its conclusion. It will be a new Pentecost, a new leap forward by the kingdom of Christ on earth, a new proclamation of the good tidings of redemption. In many countries on Christmas Eve, a light is put in the window of every house so that Joseph and Mary, passing by on that night in search of refuge, may know that within there is a family awaiting them around the fire, and at the table spread with the good things given by God. Wherever I may go in this world, if any of you passes by my house at night in distress, you will find a light in my window. Knock. Please knock at my door. I shall not ask you whether or not you are a Catholic or what you believe, my brothers and sisters. Enter my house. My brotherly arms will embrace you, and my warm heart will rejoice at your coming.
This portrayal of one man's courage and leadership was made possible by a grant from General Dynamics. General Dynamics, a strong company for a strong country.